What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It is July 23rd, 2024, 4:10 in the afternoon. And yeah, please like, share, and subscribe. Other than that, we're going to get through this really quickly just because, well, nobody watches these anymore and it's pointless to keep making them, I feel like. But I do have a select few people that do enjoy them. So we'll get through it. Going to go through the first half of the day because, well, I didn't really do anything in the second half of the day. Because I don't like to trade the second half of the day. The way I trade is not cut out for that late day trading. Okay, so as per usual, we were leading into the open within our pre-market range, and every day at 9:25 we come up with a put line scenario and a call line scenario. Now I understand that's a pretty big range today, and I'll explain why that range is as big as it was. Number one, puts I had no problem with getting into if we can get through the pre-market low line with a candle close. It was a strong support level, so we wanted to wait for a candle close. And calls, well, there's just too many levels of resistance in close proximity of each other, including the one that ended up here. So calls for me were not a thing until we can get a candle close above 555.55. Now, originally, I wasn't looking necessarily to get aggressively into puts, but we are coming off of a lower high on Qs in pre-market leading into the open. That leads me to believe that we're more likely to move down than up, albeit could be temporary, whatever the case. ADD started to pull back in print rank candles with a candle wick on the top of the first one, indicating that maybe there's some sellers there. It was an aggressive entry. Qs at the same time, by the way, were rejecting resistance and closed below that resistance. So I'm looking for a move to continue down to the next support. That's it. That was our thought process. Not everybody took this trade, but quite a few people did. Depending on when you got in or how aggressively got in, you got anywhere from 10 to 20% return on this trade. We were looking for a simple move from line to line. We got exactly that. It was in, it was out, it was done. Then we start to move up. Now, I didn't play anything to the upside here. And when we crossed the call line, you will not see an arrow there. Why? Well, I'll explain to you why. Because the Qs were nearing a line of resistance. If the Qs don't have any room potentially to go up, buying calls on SPY is not a good sign. It's not a good thing. And you could see exactly that when the Qs got up to that yesterday high of day. It rejected it immediately. SPY came back, smacked right back into support, which is great. This is a good thing, right? We breached the pink line. We closed above it. We immediately turned this level into support. Awesome. Now we just need to wait for ADD, Qs, something else to give us the indication that it's time to try and play this, if anything, from a support level to resistance. And that's exactly what this trade was. And at the same time, ADD also started to rotate and start printing green candles at the same time. So we had confluence between the rest of the market as well, because this is when ADD was starting to print that, move up. New highs a day on ADD, Qs, on support right here, looking for the move, not to break up, not to continue up crazy, although ADD continued to move up. We're just watching the Qs, watching ADD. We got in with confluence, we got out at resistance. Quick 2-minute trade, okay? That right there. So the first one for me was a 16% winner, not massive, but good way to start the day. This one here ended up being about 19.8%. And then the last one that a lot of us took, and the first for many of these people, was a counter trend trade. Now, I don't teach counter trend trading because it requires patience and it requires a level of discipline that a lot of people struggle to have. Let's just call a spade. Discipline is difficult to have because it's exciting to trade. Now, there are plenty of people out there who have a put bias. There are plenty of people who can't play anything but puts. There are plenty of people who are out there that know how to counter trend trade and do well with it, okay? I don't think it's a strategy that people who are still learning the basics of trading with the trend should be taking. It's just, I know it feels more natural to buy puts when you're at resistances and things like that. And that's when you should be trying it, because the beauty of buying puts at resistance is that you have a tighter stop loss potential. Now, in this particular trade, we were talking about the idea that Qs and SPY at the same time were at a level of resistance. So at 10:08, the Qs were at a resistance that they had right here. It was a lower high on the Qs. Okay. So we were looking at the idea, hey, if this resistance holds, you have a little bit higher to go before it hits the resistance of the day. SPY is at a strong level of resistance here. What we're not looking for is a reversal of the trend. We're just looking to play the pullback. Well, if we're looking left to where that pullback would find its support, it's simply right here. Okay, so we got in because of resistance, knowing that if we closed above that resistance, we would have to stop ourselves out. Nice tight stop. We're looking to take advantage of a small yet calculated move. Okay, now I didn't take this particular trade because I was talking about something at the time and just missed it altogether. But we were getting in at resistance on Qs and SPY. We were playing it down to support, which was right here. Trend line was getting awfully close also. So whether you got out here because of this support or the trend line, either way was a profitable trade. We're not looking for gigantic moves. Okay, it's not every day we're going to catch a move like this. Even if you get into a move like this, a lot of people don't hold that trade for the entire move. And I happen to be one of those people. So at this point, I had taken a quick move down, a quick move up, and I wasn't going to take a third trade. But since we got another counter trend potential trade showing up right after we put in highs for the day, we recognize we put in a lower high. Lower highs usually means that support are likely to fail, not hold. That's what we like to see. That gives us a little bit more confidence. Okay. But more importantly, at 10:29, Qs were also putting in lower highs and stuck at the same pink line, the same resistance that they've been struggling with all day to this point. This was our entry candle. Now, it is a counter trend trade. Typically, you want to take your counter trend trades to the first support level down, because if you're counter trend trading, you should be expecting supports to hold, not fail. But what makes this one different is the fact that it is a lower high this time, whereas here it was not. Okay, so we'd be looking for more pressure to be put on the support lines. Okay, now if you're going to take trades like this, know where you're going to get out. Now, many of us had made money on the way up already, and because of that, same thing with me, we're willing to take a little bit more risk if we do decide to take a third trade or another trade, right? I was plenty green after these first two trades, but when I'm talking about these charts to folks in our community, I want to share with them things as they're happening. And if I'm in a position to where I can comfortably take a trade or another trade, as long as it doesn't exceed my day trade limit that I give myself or anything like that, I'll take the trade, because if I'm going to be talking about it, let's take it, right? Lower high, we're looking for the move to continue down to at least the first support, which would have been here. Now, this is just a super quick trade, similar to this here, but the next support was there, okay? Or if you want to take this, ADD at the time, I think, had just started to roll over 10:30. Yeah, so ADD was just pulling back. We don't know that ADD is coming down. It's just at the time making more red candles in a row than it had on the day so far. And we're thinking, hey, maybe ADD is going to start to slip too, giving us more confidence, more comfort to the downside. Now, ADD didn't continue its move down. In fact, it started to run up, but by then Qs had already taken over, was dragging SPY lower, even though ADD was trying to move up. And then ADD got in our favor shortly thereafter and started to sell off, which just gave us a reason to stay in that trade for even longer. Okay. We got into this trade, told everybody, guys, as long as we stay below 556.13, let's ride it down to, well, I got out here, and the reason I got out here is several. Number one, we were coming down on the Qs of a level, this blue line down here, that has been very difficult for it to get back below once it got above it. So we got above it early in the morning, Tested it, couldn't get through it. Tested it, couldn't get through it. We're coming down close to it. I told everybody on the way down, I said, guys, if Qs get near that pre-market midline or SPY gets to around the pink line, I'm out of this trade. Again, I respect the pink lines too much. I respected that level of support. I wasn't going to wait and see if it was going to work. Now, unfortunately for me, it hit that area, it pulled back, it respected the resistance it had gotten through to get there, and it continued to leg down, straight down to the next line of support, which would have been roughly 145 to 150% return from entry to full exit. I only got 46% of that. It gained a lot of value real fast because it started to gain some momentum to the downside. I didn't catch it, but on our way down there, I reminded everybody. I said, guys, if you happen to still be in this trade, I want you to recognize the fact that this is a strong level of support on the Qs. We haven't been able to get through it in pre-market or in regular trading. Consider moving your stops down. If I was in this, I would definitely get out at that point. And this is before it happened. Plus, you're getting down to a support that SPY has not been able to get through either. So you had double strength support down here being supported by both the Qs and the SPYs. So this is why this circle is here. I know you watch these videos and you probably say, it seems like you catch the top and bottom of every move, Jimmy. No, I don't. Every exit on every one of my charts is based on support or resistance being touched, whether it's on SPY or the Qs. Every one of them. The thing we don't know is which one is going to be the end of the move and which one is just going to be a stopping point, a temporary stopping point. We'll never know that. But I can tell you this, if you can look at these levels as you're coming down to them and you recognize both on Q and SPY chart that level's strong, meaning it's been tested several times and we've not been able to get through it, that is a strong suggestion spot where I would consider taking myself out of the trade with profit. At the very least, tighten up those stop losses so that if it does respect that level, like it did every time we'd hit it before, you don't get caught up holding and hoping in the reversal, okay? Now, off of that support down there, we were putting in lower highs, lower lows. Calls are off the table for me until we put a higher low in. Period. End of story. I don't do calls in a downtrend until we put in a higher low. That happened shortly after finding the support. Even then, I want to know that we're going to have room to move up. I want to know that we're not smack dab in the middle of resistance, right? If you buy calls here or here, and you know that there's a resistance just a few cents above you, if there's not enough room to make money on it, skip the trade. Okay? And that goes for Qs and SPY. If Qs are moving up to resistance and SPY has just broken it, wait for the Qs to give you an idea that they are going to move too. These guys, this chart right here, overtakes SPY more often than not. You can almost get in and out of all of your trades without even watching a SPY chart, just trading the Qs chart. Okay? Try it. You'll see. Do it with a small position size though. So I wouldn't get into these calls for the same reason that I was not in a hurry to get into them here in the morning, right? I want to make sure we get through this level of resistance, this 3 levels of resistance with a candle close. You got that at 1107. Obviously the Qs were putting in higher lows. Qs closed above resistance here. Where do we expect to go? In this case, I probably told everybody to get out of this trade as we neared the pink line on Qs, which was right around 1113. And there you go, 1113, 1114 happened to coincide with a SPY resistance for the day. It moved higher. You didn't have to get out of the trade. As we move up, I just suggest that you trail your stops. And that's that. Okay, so I was not in this. Congratulations to anybody who did get into this. Congrats if you got in more aggressively than this. But this is what you're looking for. Lastly, and this is a trade that took forever to materialize, but it was right before I was getting ready to go to lunch. Somebody was asking me, Jimmy, this is a nice uptrend. Would you be buying calls on the pullback? And I said, well, there's 2 trains of thought here. We have what could be a flag play. Okay. A flag play is when you're moving up, you pull back And when that breaks that pullback line, you get into your calls. You want to take those calls up to the start of the flag, which should have been all the way up here. Now, this is contradictory to the way I prefer to trade. Okay, I'm not interested in trying to catch counter trend trades, and I wouldn't have bought calls here, and I made that abundantly clear, but I did tell everybody, hey guys, if you're interested in buying calls because the Qs are pulling back to support, this would be the time to do it. You had the opportunity. I said, if we close below 483.70, you stop out of the trade. Now, for me, that's not a trade. And the reason I wouldn't take this trade is because we're putting in lower highs. Okay, if lower highs are bad for calls, period. Now, if you did buy calls here and you took them, you stayed in the game for a little bit of time. You had an opportunity to scalp a little bit of money on this move to the upside. So on SPY, the flag play worked, but I don't like to trade against the Qs, meaning if you're only paying attention to the SPY chart, totally fine. Okay, and you decide, hey, Jimmy, we're in a flag play. Great. We broke and closed barely above this line of resistance or this downtrend line. Great. Get in, take it to resistance, okay, which is where the flag starts. You get awfully close to it here. You could have scalped that move. Problem for me is I don't trade against the Qs. Now, the Qs ended up breaking out of this wedge to the upside, but didn't make it very far. And you can look left. And I tell people this all the time, flags or not, okay? I'd love to believe it's going to make a clean run up to the start of the flag. But the fact of the matter is, how many levels of resistance off of this line are you going to have to go through to get to that? That's the problem I have. So if I buy calls here on support and I know resistance exists here, 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 and then finally here, what are the odds that it's going to just run straight up to and through all of those lines like they don't exist? Can it happen? Sure. Am I going to put my money on the fact that it's guaranteed to happen? No. So if you buy calls here, even before this lower high, you should be looking for your resistance, your first resistance to be right here. That was an attempt to move up. Failure to do so because sellers were there is a line of resistance. And then we made a lower line of resistance, making the move even less attractive to attempt to take. Now, if we just go straight from here down here with no attempt to move up, I'll buy that support, looking for it to go back up because I've not been told that there's any sellers between this pullback in this support. So I'm okay taking the risk of jumping into calls here, aiming for the top. And maybe more, depending on what's going on at that point. But when we're stair-stepping down, no. For me, that's a no-go. And I'm glad I didn't take it. Instead, I was telling everybody, guys, I don't like it to the upside here. I'm more interested in a candle close below 483.70. Because at that point, I do believe we're going to start to move down, first to the pink line. And then if we get through the pink line, I'm looking for the blue line. Okay, if you're buying pullbacks or as long as you... So we had people get into this trade. Okay, now it took a little bit of time to materialize and it took forever to finally drop. In fact, I had just gone to lunch shortly after this drop. I think I left right around 12:27. But this thing didn't have a whole lot of momentum behind it to begin with at 11:43. But the reason that is there is because Qs finally closed below support. And I'm looking for the move to continue down through and to each level of support. Okay. And where's your stop loss in a situation like this? Well, if you're closing below the support, where is your first resistance left? It's right here. So it's not like we're getting into these trades looking for resistance way up here. Okay. If you're going to take this risk, we broke support in a downtrend. I'm expecting it to move to the next support. It did exactly that, whether you took it from here to here or stayed in because you didn't get stopped out. But once the momentum started to pick up on the Qs, it was just a matter of time. Now, this was an aggressive and quick move to the downside, none of which I was in. But man, what a hell of a trade. What a hell of a trade. And there's no circles here of when to get out because as long as we weren't stopping out and we kept putting in lower highs, we were just waiting for supports to continue to break. Okay, so that's pretty much it. There's nothing else to talk about on the chart because, well, I didn't trade much after that, and I'm glad I didn't, because what happened after that was a total cluster F, if you will, until the late part of the day. This was nothing worth trading right here. And if you tried to trade through all this, you probably ran out of money or lost any confidence in taking anything, even if you caught this. Now, we were keeping an eye on this particular trade. It was a slow grinder. And if you didn't know to get out when you got up here, you had no chance of winning after that. So we're going to wrap it up for this particular video. If you got any useful information in this, please like, share, and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. If you'd like to join our Discord community, we'd love to have you. Come down, spend a week with us completely free. If you like what you get for the week, consider becoming a paying member. That's pretty much it. So I hope you all had a fantastic day. Until tomorrow, I love you guys. Thanks for watching. See ya!